an Australian walked in, I'd be like, hey, g'day, hey, yeah, Mark's here. I'm here with Mark.
Mac.
When I'm with you, I'd say like, Mark's here, and
No, but that's a lot. It's a lot of effort, though.
No, it's actually natural. I slip into it, and then I kind of, it ends up being like someone doing a bad American accent, like a bad Australian
nasally,
kind of yeah, that's right. I'm a member of the NYPD, American Police. I'm from New York. The Aussies are really bad, like some bad Australian accents.
So, but that you mean you're telling
me being bad.
But how could you do it well?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is how I do it. This is how when I talk to my mother, I would talk like that.
Mother, it's a different thing.
Mom, like I go, hey, Mom, I'm coming down there tomorrow. I've got to work on tonight. I'll be there at like 8 o'clock. So what does that sound like? Is that?
I'm not sure what that sounds like.
It's kind of somewhere in between the two.
I think it's in between.
Because what I did was at school, I never realized this, but at school I faked an Australian accent because I wanted to fit in.
When I was
a little kid, yeah. So
wait, you were born in the States?
Yeah. I came here when I was 4.
But your parents are Australian?
No, American.
Both of them?
Yeah.
So neither one of them talk like you?
No, they talk. They're like, they're
American.
Like, hey, Greg, what's happening? Yeah, Greg.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And when I talk to them, when I talk to my mother, I talk like I'm talking now. I go, Mom, I'm doing an interview with Marc Maron. He's an American comic. You probably don't know him because he's Jewish, and I know you're. You don't like Jewish people.
Sure. Yeah.
But then when I'm with my friends, I talk like that. Like I go, yeah, I'm Aussie. I'm with Marc Maron. I'm doing his podcast.
But what's easier to do? What's more natural? The Australian.
The
right?
Australian's more natural when I'm with Australians. But when I find myself with an American or a Canadian, it starts slipping out. So I think my natural default position, the fakeness
is to be accepted by anyone who
will like me, please.
That's it. So you're defaulted, like you could be talking to a Sri Lankan.
Yeah, oh, goodness me. Oh, look, I'm slipping into it already.
Yeah, I get it. Sure. Yeah, whoever will give you approval and make you feel whole in that moment is what you will adapt to.
Mm-hmm.
So why did your parents leave America?
My father worked for Ford as a designer with the Ford Motor Company. And at that stage in Australia, Australians have only recently started trusting their own. Like there was almost every executive in Australia was from England or the States.
Right.
So they needed some executives out here, so they brought out guys from America, and they offered him a better job, better pay, world travel. I think once a year they used to send us around the world. And
so he was a Ford exec where, in Michigan?
Yep, in Michigan, and then
like the original plant.
Yeah, I moved to Geelong.
Geelong?
Yeah, moving from Detroit to Geelong.
Where the hell's Geelong?
Geelong is an hour out of Melbourne.
Is that where you live now?
No. It's an hour out of Melbourne, and it's like the second city of the state of Victoria. And and that has all the paranoia and jealousy and everything that comes with it of not being the main. Apparently, 150 years ago, they tossed. It was like tossing a coin to decide whether Melbourne or Geelong would be the capital.
Oh.
And Melbourne got it, so Geelong is kind of bitter, and
So, but I don't understand this country. I'm not ignorant, but I just haven't done my homework.
Yeah.
Where's
There's 5 states.
Yeah. Where's the big rock? The big spiritual rock.
In the center.
And does anyone live out there?
Yeah. It's near.
What's it called?
It's called Uluru, or Ayers Rock.
Have you been out there?
Yep.
What'd you go out there for? Was there a gig at the base of the rock?
There's a town called Alice Springs.
Yeah.
And that's the nearest city or nearest town to that. And we do gigs there sometimes. So
really?
That's why I was there. But I didn't go up it because the Aboriginal people actually don't like you to climb it. And so, white people climb it it's always full of, German tourists or Australians climbing it. And
Americans on holiday from college.
Yeah.
Backpacks.
And all the Aboriginal people are standing there hating the fact that everyone's climbing up this sacred thing, and some woman went up there and did a striptease recently to get famous. An American woman. She climbed to the top and then did a striptease, which was videoed and put on YouTube, but,
Well, she's going to be cursed by the Aboriginals.
Well,
she already is, I'm sure.
Women aren't meant to play didgeridoos or even have them aimed at them. It's meant to make you barren if you do that. Kitty Flanagan does a good joke about that. She says like she's in her 40s and hasn't got a kid or anything. She goes, I don't know. Sometimes I think being in that old girl didgeridoo band in the 80s may have had side effects.
So that's a common thing that people know, that you can't aim a didgeridoo at a woman?
No,
and
it's
a woman
not common.
cannot play a didgeridoo? So she had to set that joke up, I would assume. That's a sort of a regional joke. I don't know if that would fly.
Well, even here, a lot of people probably wouldn't get it. But, yeah, a lot of people probably don't know that women aren't meant to play them, you know.
Well, I think it's important that we bring that up on the podcast because there might be women out there who
want to play the didge.
Well, who might be playing it and don't realize the trouble they're in.
Yeah, well, it depends. If you want to have sex without contraception, just play that didge.
Oh, so that's what it does? It'll make you barren?
Yeah.
That's sort of a hard sell, I think, as a man. If I walked in and some woman was like, "We're good, man. Go bareback."
Yeah, stop blowing so much and bareback.
Yeah, isn't that what you call it?
Yeah, but barebacking, I always think of as there was a thing with gay men that became big about 20 years ago, where after the AIDS, I know you were really young, but after the whole AIDS thing peaked, it was like a dangerous thing for gay men to do if you wanted to live on the edge.
You'd
bareback, and it was like a deliberate,
I think it's
choice.
Actually still dangerous.
Yeah,
couple of for a few reasons.
So you get thrown off.
You come up. So you came here when you were 4, and then you grew up Australian.
Yep. And pretty much started.
And when did you do comedy? When did you start? Because I don't know if people know this, but Greg Fleet is infamous and respected and adored figure.
Adored and despised in equal measure.
Yeah. Are you despised or are you just irritating? I don't think you're despised. I think people are more like, Fleet.
Yeah, I there was a long
You've
period
tried
of
the
time.
patience of your country, Greg.
Yes. And now I'm sort of behaving and trying to make up for all the bad things that I did.
Let's talk about where it went bad, because I know some of the people that listen to my podcast know this, that when I was here in 1992, and the story about when I got sent home, as I said in that story, the comic who was there when I got sent home was you.
Yeah, I was the MC.
Yeah, you were the MC. You had hair. You were younger. I remember it fairly clearly. And I did not run into you again until, like, what was it, 17 years later? That right, 92, 2002, 15 years later in Edinburgh, and I recognized you because of your teeth and your face. And we sat there and bonded for a second, but there was never that moment where it was impossible. Like, we don't really know each other, and then it's sort of like, well, what have you been doing for 15 years? And it turns out, as I've picked up stories from you and other people, you've been up to quite a lot of trouble.
Well, this is a way of explaining that. I still don't remember that gig. I still don't remember doing that gig with you getting sent home, any of that stuff. I mean, I know it happened because you told me about it. And when you told me, I sort of vaguely remember something like that. But I was doing so many drugs at that time. Like, for me to forget, working with a guy from America who on the second night was sent back to America.
First week. No, it was a week. It took a week.
And for me to forget that happened is a remarkable thing. I can't believe that I don't remember that happening.
Well, so that was 92-ish. So where were you in your career at that point in time? I mean, you were still emceeing, so you weren't a huge, infamous, popular.
What they used to do here was you'd get to a certain level, and if you were around the top end of stand-up, you would get to MC the international acts when they came out.
So that was actually a good gig.
It was. In fact, I've got a feeling it was one of the first times they let me do it, and that's why, the whole thing falling apart and you getting sent home and everything, I probably was going, oh God, it's my fault. It's my fault. They just sent the wrong American home.
I just wonder who they brought in to fill in for me. Who knows? It would have been someone really mainstream, and as you said back then, Australian shows always around that time, and it has changed now. It's become much more generic. But back then, it was a new stand-up going on first, like a weird double act of like, Right, that's who I had. These two women.
The Flat Whites, they were called, I think.
Oh, so you remember that?
Yep.
Are they still around?
No, they're not around. One of them is a reviewer. She does comedy reviews. So they'd have like a new stand-up on first, a weird double act or a triple act on second. They would always have a juggler or a magician, like you had the guy getting out of the straitjacket.
I think he was on a unicycle, in my recollection. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think he was the same guy who had a thing where he'd had a guillotine on stage, and he'd chop a lettuce in half, and then he'd put his head in it, and he'd come down. It was actually kind of impressive because of that noise and everything. You think, oh God, he's going to kill himself.
Yeah, and then
every night.
And then the insecure Jewish guy from from the States.
Yep.
After all that,
and
it was
also,
horrendous.
Well, people also don't know that you as a clean and sober man for some time relapsed on the way back to
I did
to the US. Yeah, on
I
the
mean
plane.
that probably was the second time I was trying to get sober, and I was fucking done. When I I wasn't going to meetings and shit, and on that plane I just started knocking back vodka, and by the time I got back to San Francisco where I was living, I'm like, I'm finished. I'm not cut out for this shit. This comedy thing's a mistake.
But that's knowing what I do about you, that's a heavy blow for it to be enough to make you go, get back on the way.
Well, I'd only at that time I'd get a year, year and change. I did that several times.
There's nothing wrong with that, my friend.
No, I know.
That's admirable. Getting a year.
You've made a career out of almost getting a year.
Yeah.
Haven't you?
I don't have room to store all those chips in my house, so I've always got to relapse before a year gets up.
So when you were doing that gig, so that's 92, so you were strung out then?
Yeah, I was using
dope.
Heroin. Yep.
Now, how the hell are you a guy who can function on that? So you would...
Yeah, I would. The thing is, with heroin, if you get a habit, you have to have it to function. My ultimate horror is doing a gig, or used to be doing a gig, hanging out, needing to score. So I used to go around all the time. I'd get a gig, someone would ring up and say, I've got a gig for you. It's blah blah blah. And then I'd say two things. I'd say, great. And I'd say, hey, is there any way I could come and get the money now? Right. And or just before the gig. So quite often, hardly ever did I get paid, because I would have already spent the money, Or I'd go that afternoon and get the money. It was sort of like prostitution. I'd get the money so I could buy the drugs, so I could do the gig to earn the money to buy the drugs to do the gig. And, it's like chicken and egg. Yeah. Was he doing comedy to afford the heroin, or was he doing the heroin to make himself capable of doing the comedy? Now,
were your parents here? Where did they go? I mean,
my father's a great story. My father, not long after they were here, he did a couple of things. He fucked all of my mother's friends and all of his friends' wives, and I don't mean some. I mean pretty much all. And
here,
in Australia, he'd done this in the States as well. If there's any addiction in my family, it's him. He had a sexual addiction for sure. He was mad about it, so screwed everybody. And then he went into business for himself. That went south, and rather than facing it, he split. But what he did was he faked his own death. So he set up this thing where everyone thought he was dead.
How did he do that? I mean,
he left his car on a pier and sent a note to his solicitor.
He killed himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically that just gave him a head start. And he, a couple of years later, my mother, he made the mistake. He went all around the world doing weird things. He used to be in the Green Beret, so he had this weird background. Yeah. And he went around, as far as I can tell, although he wanted people to think this because he's melodramatic, he went around the world, being a mercenary and stuff. But he met a woman.
He was a mercenary, or he really did that?
Yeah, he wanted us to think that. I mean, he may have done a little
bit. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam? Or
no,
Korea?
He didn't go to Vietnam. Oh. He pretended to go insane and got an honorary discharge.
From the Green Berets?
Yeah, because they were going to Vietnam, and he kind of went, this is really fun until it gets real.
Right.
But he ended up meeting another woman. He changed his name from William Fleet to William Lee.
Okay, so he's dead to you.
Yeah, he's dead.
No one knows it.
I think people kind of suspected that he wasn't. I was young, so I don't remember this really clearly. But yeah, after a while, I think people thought, okay, he's probably not dead. But
right.
He changed his name to Lee from Fleet, married another woman, had a family, and then her father owned a business in Melbourne, a real estate company.
The wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, stupidly, he moved from remote Queensland back to Melbourne, and one day someone saw him walking down the street and told my mother, and she just walked into his office. So, 4 years later, he's just do-do-do-do-do-do in his office, and this woman walks in, and, she...
Was there money at stake? Did he take all your mom's money and that kind of shit?
Yeah. She was from a really wealthy family, and he wasn't. And, she ended up working, like, dead end jobs to get us through school, and he wrecked her life. But look, they're both crazy, and they both drove each other insane.
So when she goes back to see him now, do they have a relationship now?
No, not at all. I mean, no, not at all. He lives in the States. She
he's
lives
back?
here. Yeah.
With
He married another wealthy
a third
woman.
family? Now?
Fourth.
The fourth wealthy woman.
Yeah, and wealthy woman, and like the first person he married, he decided that wasn't working. So what he did was he'd ignore her for a long time. Then he introduced her to one of his army buddies, who was kind of a handsome guy.
Yeah.
And so he'd go around and visit her and console her and stuff like that. And then of course, one day they kissed on the doorstep or something, and my father was in the bushes. Jumps out. How could you? Punches his friend and divorces the woman because
so now he's got an excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
So now, so do you talk to your dad?
He actually sent me an email, and this is how lazy I am. I saw it the other day on my email thing, and I haven't read it. But so occasionally we do, yeah. But I if I had a computer here now, I'd open it up and we could read it together for the first time. It could be, The weird thing about him is he's never apologized or anything like that. But he did say some great things. He told me once, how there's all these meaningful things like if is the middle word in life.
Yeah.
He took me aside when I was 12 and he went, "Hey, Greg, you know why I changed my name to Lee that time?" And I said, "No." And he said, because Lee is the middle word in fleet. And it had the rhythm of something that made sense. But,
So that was his real name, and he just no.
he just yeah.
So your dad's nuts.
Yeah, quite nuts. They're all nuts.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's too bad you didn't get the gift of seducing wealthy women.
Oh, I know that.
You decided to do comedy instead.
Yeah, it was it's frustrating. But he was like the camel man, like the Marlboro man. He was like on the back of magazines because he's quite handsome. He took up acting and stuff like that later.
Your father
on.
did.
Yeah. And there's like pictures of him like on the back of a tugboat throwing ropes overboard and smoking a camel. And
Really?
Stuff. Yeah.
So you got into that?
Yeah, he got into that, and small parts in movies. He had like 2 lines in a James Garner film called Tank.
Mm.
But yeah.
You talked to your mom?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we get on. I mean, we drive each other crazy. We went for about 5 years where we didn't speak at all, but more recently we're starting to again.
Well, you seem pretty healthy. You don't seem all sweaty and fucked
No,
up.
I am healthy.
How many times have you been like when I saw you in '92? When did you first end up getting sober?
Oh.
Or off the dope, anyways.
I'd stop and start, but I'd stop then and just do other things, as you know. You give up your drug of choice and then do all the other ones.
Sure.
And go, I'm so healthy, it's great.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough one to kick, And I want to thank you for helping me out in this trip to Melbourne by, you asked me for $25 and I gave it to you. And I've been able to use it on stage because apparently there isn't one person in Melbourne that you haven't borrowed money from.
There's actually 2 comics I haven't borrowed money from, and we were talking about this before. One of them said to me the other day that both of them feel somehow that they're being shut out of this really exclusive club, that they're somehow not good enough comics for me to borrow money from, so they feel really bad. So I better go borrow some money from them.
Well, wait till you really need it and make it big. Yeah. Make them feel really special.
Yeah.
You guys are so special, I need $500.
Yeah. Everyone else it was just 25.
Now knowing that you have all these debts everywhere,
I don't really. I mean, I've actually paid.
Someone said that. Someone said
stopped,
eventually you pay it back.
Yeah,
kinda.
And when I first stopped using,
yeah,
when I say first stop, when I stopped the most recent time, which seems like the final time, I actually went around paying people, and everyone was really shocked. And it was actually a good way though to let people know that you're sober, as you're actually paying them back.
Sure.
They go, "Wow, this is actually happening."
Yeah.
But there was this great time where people could come up to me and go, "Hey man, look, I really need that $80," and I'd give it to them.
Yeah.
And then they'd go, "You don't really owe me $80." Because I just assumed anyone who said that it was true.
So if somebody catches you on the right day, they could just ask you for the money that you owe them.
I'm sure there are people out there I've paid money to that I never owed it to.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
They've got your own game.
Yeah, exactly. They're sitting back and having an exotic lunch, and I'm sitting somewhere going, "Oh man, I really needed that money, but I guess at least I'm paying my debts."
So now the show you did a few years back about the addiction. What was the angle on that?
I did a show called 10 Years in a Long Sleeve Shirt.
Yeah.
And it was basically, I was drawing parallels between love and addiction, and how for me most of the times when I got into taking a new drug or whatever, it was through a romantic situation.
Really?
So yeah.
How do you mean?
Well, like I'd meet a girl,
Yeah.
she'd be into something.
Okay.
And so she'd go, oh, do you want to try this? And I'd do it. And so I always equated, and still do, romantic love with addiction, you know, and, you know, so to me...
Well, there's something very nurturing about heroin.
Well, there is. There is in a way, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that on some level, that's what we're all looking for, is that warm feeling of comfort and being okay.
Yeah, and having a couple of Asian guys looking for you to break your legs to get... No, that's probably not part of it, but yeah. But yeah, I always equated taking a new drug with you know, for the first time, usually would be the same day that I'd end up sleeping with somebody for the first time.
Like what new drugs? I mean, the first time you did dope was with who? A woman?
Yep. Yeah, first time I did heroin was with a woman, and we... You know,
wow, you must be really grateful for that.
Oh, yeah, it was a great relationship.
She really got you started on a lifelong journey that you've got to just wake up every day and thank her for.
Yeah, and she's, of course, been clean for 15 years and has a really good life, and I'm still out there scrambling around. But,
they still talk?
Yeah, we do.
Really?
We do see each other occasionally. She's great. But it wasn't like she got me into it. I mean, she did give me the first time I did it, but, I mean, I would have found it somewhere else.
Sure.
So,
that's a nice way to put it.
But so I've always equated, you know, new drug experiences with romance, and therefore all the insecurity that goes with that, and the obsession and the addiction, and, you know, needing, you know, like everyone says that giving up cigarettes or giving up a certain drug is like ending a relationship.
Yeah.
And for me, heroin ended up being by far the longest relationship I'd had with anyone or anything. So it really was. And, you know, when you end something like that, I actually, in rehab once, had to write a letter to heroin breaking off the relationship. And it seemed like a dicky thing to do, but it was actually great, because you're saying all these things like, the whole time we were together, I was dedicated to you. I spent all my money trying to, you know, keep you around. And you know, I didn't realize this, but all that time you were seeing other people. You know, I was dedicated to you, but you were seeing anyone who had the money. And, you know,
yeah.
But
And, but after that, you and heroin got back together a few times. And
oh yeah, we'd party. But, you know, or heroin would come around and be all depressed because she'd split up with her recent boyfriend, and I'd just console her. But yeah, look, it went on and off for ages. But around the time I met you, or re-met you in Edinburgh, so 5 years ago, was around the time that I seriously started to end it. You know, before that it was just I'd give up because I ran out of money, or I'd give up because I ran out of money. No, you know, it was, you know, it was never serious, and it was never long term. It was always like, I'll stop this for a few months. Yeah. You know, but then around the time of meeting you, you know, I'd been to a rehab before that, and then, you know, you and I spent that month together. And
well, that was insane, because I met you and I recognized you. I sat down, I ordered a club soda. You said you ordered a beer. You said, why are you drinking club soda? I said, I don't drink. And you said, I shouldn't be either. And somehow I talked some shit to you, and then we ended up going to meetings for a month. Yeah,
and it was great.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, and I mean, the show I did about addiction, I actually did in Edinburgh, and it was great, because I sort of got into this thing, and I don't know if you ever do this, but I was doing these thematic shows over a couple of years. I did the one about addiction. I did one about this horrendous holiday I had in Thailand, but they were shows that had, you know, they were mostly funny. So they'd be, you know, look at this idiot, you know, it was always about me being an idiot, you know, and, you know, hock shops, or, you know, what do you call them?
Pawn shops.
Pawn shops, you know, resembling my living room, you know, because all my stuff would be in there, and I'd go in and, you know, change the positioning of some of the things and say, it looks better like this. And
this is how I had it at home.
Yeah. So, you know, there was all the funny things of drug addiction and stuff, and, you know, like funny stories about taking LSD and the funny things that can happen, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. But then also in there would be like, my girlfriend overdosing and dying or something. So it'd be like 95% hilarious and 5% quite tragic.
Did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So there'd be...
When did that happen?
Oh, 89 or something. But
were you in the room?
Audience? Yeah. But for the audience, it would be this great journey of like hilarious, and then deeply tragic, and suddenly... And I remember every night there was this moment in the show where there'd just be silence, and one night I heard this woman in this, you know, sort of like, laugh, oh my God, silence, and I just heard this one voice in the crowd go, oh no, And it was an incredible feeling, because then you go back to comedy straight away. You'd have to have a really good joke to break that tragic vibe. But people would leave having been on this incredible journey, and they actually liked it better than when I just did shows that were just funny.
Well, yeah, well, theater, and if there's an arc and there's there's something happens, and then there's some sort of transformation. I mean, I assume that after that show you got clean in the narrative, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the trouble with that show was, it's on YouTube. It's called 10 Years in a Long Sleeve Shirt. There's a half-hour version of it on YouTube that I did as a TV special.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, you can see I'm stoned.
Oh.
So I'm actually doing this show about how I used to be a heroin addict on heroin, you know.
Mm.
So that was problematic, because I did that for a couple of years.
That was problematic?
Yeah.
Because you're saying you're not on heroin anymore?
Oh, absolutely. And, borrowing money off people. So that's where, I think I said that to you the other day. Hey, man, can I borrow $80 to fix my fridge?
Yeah.
I actually had a guy say that to me once. I just looked at this guy and I'm just like, you don't have a fridge.
So in that moment, though, because, I mean, that's about, when it comes to heroin stories, that's really the worst that can happen. I mean, there's plenty of people that almost die, but when you have somebody that you're with die, I mean, what was the story there?
Well, that wasn't really that was someone I'd seen a little bit, but the really tragic, or the upsetting story in that, when I would do that show, was my actual girlfriend, who I first started doing it with. She OD'd. She didn't actually die, but what happened was she OD'd. I turned around and she's out. She's like, I'd never seen anyone do this, but she's like not breathing. Her skin's going black. She's no pulse. I'm trying to revive her and doing all this stuff. And there was another guy there who was her really good friend, this gay guy, who was like, the three of us were really close. Yeah. So I just said, keep her breathing. And I went running out in the street to try and get an ambulance or something. I went out, all these surreal things happened. I went out on the street and I said, is anyone here a doctor? And this guy came running up to me and went, I'm an accountant. That's not going to help. No. But I went back inside the house, and my friend had fallen asleep on top of my girlfriend. Instead of keeping her breathing, had just nodded off on top of her. So they're both out.
It's like fucking Trainspotting.
Oh, man, it was, very much so. So, eventually ambulance guys come, and the other thing, I kept picking her up and slapping her, trying to wake her up. And I found out later that what I was doing was actually knocking her out. I was so panicking. I was hitting her so hard that she probably would have come to, except every time she started to, I'd slap her and probably knock her out again. But these guys came, the ambulance came, they gave her a shot of this stuff, Narcan, which is, reverses the effects of heroin. And nothing happened. And the feeling, it's so hard to describe this feeling that goes through you when you go, your whole world is caved in. She's dead, You haven't thought about, her family, telling her mother and father, your family, like, just the fact that she's gone. All this stuff starts descending on you. And they gave her another shot of Narcan, and suddenly she just went, and sat up.
Yeah.
And, they sort of brought her around. And the first thing she said to me, she went, have you had yours? And I said, no. And she went, give me half.
Oh, no,
just
come on.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely true.
So strung out.
Yeah.
And then, but that was the one that got sober, huh?
Yep. Yeah, she's
remarkably. But so none of these incidents, like, did you ever die?
No. The last, one of the very last times I used heroin was in Ireland, and I hadn't done it for a long time. The classic story. I'd been clean, going to meetings and stuff like that. Hadn't done it for a long time, and I just was in that mood. I found myself going for a walk in Ireland, which is, I don't often go for walks.
We're in Kilkenny?
No, in Dublin.
Uh-huh.
And then I found myself just happened to be walking around the dodgy part of town. Like, wow, I've just ended up in this part of town.
I understand this.
Yeah, and look at those guys over there. They seem to be on some kind of... They're very tired. And so I ended up scoring from this guy, took him back to my hotel.
Yeah.
I bought him some. And he told me, too. He said, look, one thing about this stuff, it's crap. Unfortunately, it's not very good.
Yeah.
So he had his and left, and I had mine, and I woke up in hospital. And there was all this embarrassment and shame. Basically, I'd OD'd in the hotel room, hadn't turned up to my gig. They had sent someone back to the hotel. The owner of the gig had come back to my hotel, got the manager of the hotel to come up and open my room.
Right.
And I'm in there, there's syringes all over the place. I'm unconscious on the floor. They put me in a wheelchair and get me to hospital. And I finally come to in hospital and go, why am I in hospital? And I didn't realise I was in Ireland. And I'm going, why has everyone got Irish accents? And I leave this hospital, they're telling me to stay. I said, no, I've got to get to work. I bolt to this gig, and it's over, it's all finished. And I go up to the owner of the venue and I say, oh, sorry, man. I was on my way here and I got rolled by these two guys and they took my wallet and da-da-da. And he's just looking at me. He's the guy that's just come around and got me off the floor and taken me to hospital. So I'm telling this elaborate lie, and as I'm telling it, I'm going, "Oh, this isn't working." So that was the only time I'd ever OD'd, though, and that was one of the very last times I used.
How the hell did you manage? I mean, how old are you? 47?
48. Yeah.
So you're my age, and you didn't get Hep C, you didn't get AIDS.
I know, that's remarkable.
And you seem to be pretty, pretty
fat. Are you saying I'm fat?
You're fat, yeah.
I didn't used to be. I actually do this thing now where I stand on stage side on, because I always used to be quite skinny, and the audience sees that I've actually developed this kind of fat stomach, and
they think you're doing well. They think Fleet's good.
They do, but I point at my stomach and I say, ladies and gentlemen, one thing I just want to say to the young people is never give up heroin.
Yeah.
You'll just be a fat old man like me.
But over the process of what's got to be 20 years of this shit, or 15 years
25?
Right, since you've been a professional comic, I mean, the infamy of it has probably, how's it affected your career?
Well,
I mean, you've done what, TV? You've been on. Yeah. I mean, you've done acting, right?
Yeah. And TV. I've just written a series, a TV series about comics. So it's about 5 comics who are friends and just what comics do when they're not on stage.
But do people trust you, or are you ever going to regain?
Well, not really, I don't think. And but this TV show hopefully will be. There's a lot riding on it for me, but it's kind of like my reintroduction to that world. And if it goes as well as I think it will, and it does look incredible. I'll send you a copy of it. You can tell me what you think. But it's got good people in it. A lot of well-respected people here and in the UK are in it. But if that works, I think I'll get a lot more trust and a lot more, like there's some talk of doing a second season of it and stuff. So there's a lot, I've kind of got all my eggs in one basket on that level.
Well, everybody knows you on this side of the world and in England. I mean, Stuart Lee speaks highly of you, and everybody seems to know you, Fleet, your infamous character, and they respect your comedy.
Yeah, but that's about it. That's where the respect ends. Because they do respect comedy. But I mean, to a lot of people, like Stuart, is incredibly frustrated by me, and it makes me feel bad because Stuart Lee works incredibly hard. He's incredibly creative and talented. He has a lot of time for my work and has helped me a lot, but I also upset him. It's upsetting for him to see someone wasting ability or, not achieving what they could achieve. So it's...
well, you say that with a certain detachment. I mean, does it upset you?
Enormously.
So what do you do with that?
Well, what you should do with it is stop behaving like a fucking idiot and work hard and
And what do you do?
Lift your game,
beat the shit out of yourself until you...
Yeah, I just keep rolling those dice, going, I don't have to do the work. I'm lucky, lucky old Fleety. Hey, 7, see, So, but more recently, I've actually been doing it, and that's why writing the TV show was a great thing because I think a lot of people didn't think I'd get it done. I wrote it as a play, and we did it in the Comedy Festival about 6 years ago. But turning it into a TV show was great, and I think it will work, and it will be a way into that world of responsibility. And then I assume I will pick up the ball and run with it, and actually do more and more and more. Or I'll do what I used to do, which is get really cocky and go, "Wow, see, I've done a great thing. I could probably do this and use heroin at the same time, and everything would work out great."
Yeah. So we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I can't imagine I would do that. If I did that again, I would be it'd be like committing suicide, career-wise, and, I've got a kid now and all that sort of stuff.
You've had a kid for 9 years.
Yeah, I know, but I only just realised. But, you can't, I need to earn money, I need to, get school fees for her and give her a decent life, and, and also I'm egotistical like anybody. Anyone in comedy, I want to do things that are admired. So, I'm running out of time. So this is time to, I've had a great life. I've done what I wanted to do. I've been really self-indulgent, and now is kind of, and the other thing is, Giving up heroin is you're actually gaining. You know, it's like, as you'd know, you're not really giving anything up. You're getting a whole lot of other stuff. You know, you're getting opportunities and work and trust. And so,
what is it about the dope?
I think it's what you said before about security or what, which is bizarre because you think it makes you the most insecure person, you know, because you don't know where your next taste is coming from.
You got to rely on it. You got to go into shitty buildings.
Oh yeah, and get
shitty people.
Yeah, you know, you get threatened with getting stabbed and stolen from. And,
have you gotten to the point where you had to steal shit?
Yeah, not really had to, but I did, you know, and only from people around me, which is
so just
really
people
bad.
you know.
Yeah, people I love, you know, people who loved me and trusted me. So never from strangers or, you know.
Are there houses you can't go to?
No, not really, but
not anymore?
I imagine.
Like, was it ever to the point where your mom was like, nope, can't come over?
No, I never got that. But I'm sure there'd be people who, if I saw them or went around to their house, would, you know, they wouldn't just leave their wallet in the middle of the table. You know,
I kind of thought about it.
But your wallet never has any money in. I check it all the time.
Well, I'm glad you're all right, man.
You know, it all works with comedy and stuff because, you know, you can do. I find the more tragic and shit a thing that happens to you, the better it is for comedy.
Well, yeah, I agree. Whether it happens in your mind or in real life.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, relationships ending, anything like that. There's always part of me now, while something bad's happening to me, part of me in the back of my brain,
writing the bit
while it's happening, is going, one day I'll make money out of this. You know, one day this will be a routine.
Really?
Even if I'm crying. I was crying once, and I was going, this actually could be quite good soon.
Well, I definitely appreciate you talking.
Oh man, I love it, and I really like the show, and it's a thrill to be on it. So, and we're going to do some live one or something. Apparently.
Yeah, we are on Saturday.
Cool.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
My guest here is Simon Munnery. Now you get some of the similar things that I get, which is a legend, cult figure.
Yeah.
And I find that those
Genius.
things...
You have that one?
Rarely. You get genius. That's good. Well,
it's not. I don't think it's good. It's what does the word genius mean? It's Soren Kierkegaard's got quite a nice bit about it. How people use the word genius to distance themselves. That's other.
Yeah.
What does it mean? There's a lot of geniuses in town.
Sure. Yeah. Usually, genius means that not everyone understands them, but they've been around a long time, and they should be understood. But it's not on me to do it.
But a comic genius is sort of a contradiction in terms. You'd think a comic genius would be someone that no one found funny, but possibly the future would.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
But they don't mean that. A comic genius is very, very funny right now,
right?
But somehow, slightly.
It's a way of saying he's different.
Different, yes. Different
than the rest of them. He stands out from the pack. Yeah.
Right.
Now, in terms of, like, I don't want to seem stupid or ignorant, but I do not. My pulse is my fingers are not on the pulse of British comedy or international comedy as much as it should. You know, I talked to when I was in London, I talked to Stuart Lee, who has nothing but lovely things to say about you.
Yeah, but in his book, in my favourite piece he does in his book, I'm appearing a lot of his notes.
Yeah.
In his book, which is Simon Munnery, who's by no means a household name, even in his own house, where his wife and 3 lovely daughters habitually refer to him as Mr. Poo-Poo Head. Which is too near the truth to be funny.
Did you start with him though? Like, where do you put your beginnings in comedy? I mean, what years? Like, what?
I've been doing it 25 years. So I started when I was 19 at college.
Yeah. And what did you study when you went to school? Because you seem sort of high-minded.
Science. A little bit of science.
A little bit of science.
Oh, very little. As soon as I got to university, I kind of hated it. I went off it within about a week. I was really looking forward to it. All through school, they said, wait till you're in the 6th form. All through the 6th form, wait till you're in the university. And I got there and I went, oh, it's the same. It's learn this, learn that. There's an exam coming. Learn it. I remember sitting in this lecture hall where there's 2,000 students and a man at the front with an overhead projector reading out notes from his book and writing them down on the overhead projector, and we were all copying them out. And it seemed, that could be done with a photocopier, couldn't it? Really? What is this?
Yeah.
And I just went off it.
That was it.
Really?
You quit?
Well, I stayed. I should have changed subject, but I just didn't go to any more lectures or paid no attention to it anyway. In fact, I met my supervisor on the last week of the last year. I met him and I said, he's meant to be supervising me every week, and I'd never been.
Yeah.
So he'd never met me.
Oh, the whole
so I
time.
said,
Yeah.
look, the exam's coming up. Could you recommend one book I could read? Come on, there's been a week. So okay. But I'd just slipped through the net. Because I'd never been,
Yeah.
he'd never sent reports. So people who are higher up in charge of looking after my academic welfare never got a bad report. There was no positive. It was just, so I just fell through the net, and they didn't notice.
I just got some weird kind of panic of that thought of like not going to class and then having to do the exam.
Yeah.
I still have dreams about that.
It's amazing what school does, how it's imprinted on you, that jumping over hurdles.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
So when you deal with, like, because I watched your show the other night, and like I said, I didn't grow up with you in the same scene. When you do something that, like, even when you talk about the Nietzschean character, that you know that the audience is going to be baffled a bit for a long time, if maybe even the entire time.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you get a thrill out of, or do you really think in your mind that they are going to get it eventually?
Well, if I think of how I work, is if something makes me laugh,
Right.
I want to know if it makes other people laugh.
Right.
So it's kind of a sharing thing, and sometimes you have to abandon something after enough tries. No, that's not going to work. But there's often little bits. Most things I think of, most people find funny.
Yeah.
I think in an audience. People who come to see me specifically, there's even more chance.
Yeah.
But still, there'll be some things that just don't work. But then, you hone it, I think, that you do it lots of times. I'm very slow to give up with something completely. If it made me laugh once and I've still got the gist of why I found that funny, I wouldn't be able to put it into words. But something about that made me funny. Anyway, I'll keep on with it until I'm absolutely convinced there's no hope for it.
What's an
Then I bury
example?
it.
What's an example of something that you've just locked onto and refused to let go of, despite the fact?
Okay, one I used to do, something I like a joke where you just have to play for luck as well sometimes.
Like, what does that mean?
Well, it's not definitely going to work.
Right.
But you might as well try it.
Yeah.
Which is, as Alan Parker, this character, used to...
The punk guy.
Yeah, I used to go, has anyone here, to the audience, has anyone here ever felt totally alone? And what I'm praying for is one person goes, yeah. And I go, oh, just you then. It's one of those it's a sort of just you then, or just me then format.
Right.
Anyone here,
Right.
know what it's like when
Did it happen sometimes?
Yes,
Oh, good.
perfectly.
Oh, good.
And other times not. But I'd leave the gap and I'd wait and hope. That's
Like I watched a show the other night, and it's called, what is it called? Self-Employed?
it is.
And is that more of a, do you generate a new hour every year?
Oh, you got me. Go on, put the cuffs on. No, I don't.
No, I mean, it's a tall order.
That is it's basically the show I did last year, honed more. With a new front end, well, a new back end now. The conceptual restaurant sketch was new last August.
But if you could explain it to me, the restaurant sketch in your mind, I'm fascinated.
I wanted to do it outside.
Yeah.
Create my own venue, sort of tight, cardboard and canvas and
A
lightweight
restaurant.
stuff. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A conceptual restaurant that I could put anywhere.
Right.
And I built a trolley for it. That was the first thing I did, so I could store all the dishes without them getting broken.
Yeah.
And I performed it once. I just set it up in my garden. It's got a big garden. And next door neighbour's mother-in-law saw me doing it and was attracted over by the very sight of me. And she was my first customer. She came in, she laughed her head off. So I thought, this works. Now, okay, so I built this trolley. I tried to attach it to a bike. It broke the thing that connected it because it was completely unstable. I'd never built a trolley before. I've learned a lot about it. Don't make it top heavy and unstable. So then I was going to Edinburgh, planning to just do a straightforward set, and I thought, I've got that. Really, I don't need the trolley. All I need is the dishes. Actually, I can do it. I'll do it as a sketch. So I did it as a sketch with a chair and table on the stage, and I used to get people up to go in the restaurant. And I realised, no, they're sitting at chairs anyway. Why bother? It took 2 days to work that out.
Yeah.
Of course, it's awkward. They don't want to. What happened was, two people didn't want to get up. They just wouldn't. And the thing, if they don't want to, you just got to make them. You can't not. I tried to should have learnt this years ago. But would you like to come up and sit? No. Okay, then you try someone else. Of course, they don't want to either.
No one wants to volunteer.
No. So then what? You're stuck. And I realised, well, there's no need for them to come up. I can just move the table towards them. They're in it. Don't give them a choice.
They're at the restaurant.
Other things I learned.
So the restaurant is basically different countries, right?
different countries.
Well, I mean, there's one restaurant where you have Belgium on the plate.
No, basically the restaurant it's a conceptual restaurant. There's no food. It's art.
Right.
So broad canvas. What it is each dish, and it's a coal seam. There's masses more in there that can be done. That's just as far as I've got with it. Like a dish, and what is a description in the menu, followed by a surprise of some sort. Preferably there's some sort of activity involved, like you could have a murder mystery on a plate and you have to work out something, right? And you can have a performance element as well by the waiter.
Yeah.
He can sing, dance it to you, offer you things to go with it. You can have so basically that sort of format of a restaurant, which is theatre anyway.
Yeah.
Apart from the food element,
So the inspiration was that there's a presentation by a waiter in a real restaurant, and on some level you thought that you could extend that or break it open.
Yeah, to make a restaurant without food. So it's just all, as I say, all the rigmarole of haute cuisine without the shame of eating. What I love about that phrase is you probably hadn't thought there was a shame in eating.
There is sort of a shame in
eating. Well, there is now. But I don't think it's in the public consciousness that much. Yes, perhaps it is. There is, I know, getting too fat. There's that.
Well, there's an awkwardness to it. I went to a fancy restaurant last night where I had that moment where there was such a... There was a labor to the waiter, the waitress, telling me, explaining dishes as being, having bouquets, and there's a refreshing, but it's weird poetics that it's fairly recent, and it's hard for it not to be ridiculous, because not only is it ridiculous when you're hearing it, in a way you're like, come on, it's just fucking ice cream, but then when you're eating it, the shame is like, I'm not getting the bouquet, maybe I'm not appreciating
clothes. Sort of
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's awfully good, but it's a bit much.
It's overhyped. You can't.
Well, it's beautiful, but it's still just food.
Yeah. So the sort of the mechanism is that you get a description in the menu, which I find ridiculous. It's a description of something that doesn't exist yet as well. So, and the time people spend poring over the menu, going, I'll have all that. There's so much to read, so many decisions to make.
Yeah.
It's all. But I thought there's a lot can be played with that. You could have the waiter could actually look at you and decide what you want. He could know what you want,
and then not give you the choice.
No, the illusion of choice. But in fact, it's a very obvious what you're going to have.
So that's actually the seeds to a whole show.
It's a thing, a whole outdoor thing, a franchise eventually. But,
so you'll have a chain of these restaurants.
I'd like to see a field with lots of different ones. Yeah, imagine that. So and other things.
Well, I think that the thing I like about this, Simon, is that it has nothing to do with show business.
Right. Thank you. I claim I'm still in it. That joke which ends what and leave showbiz. Yeah.
Do you ever find that is an issue in terms of how you think about it? Like, how am I going to continue making money if I'm going to be setting up outdoor art restaurants? Not that that's important. I think art is good.
I reckon. I'll charge people.
Okay. To make come into the
We're going to try it in Edinburgh this year. We're going to do it on Portobello Beach, top of Arthur's Seat. I've worked out how to do it now. We're going to pack it down to basically the size of 2 massive suitcases on wheels, so you can take it anywhere.
Yeah.
Poles, you've got chairs, tables, dishes packed neatly, so they can be flipped out. Bang, set it up, do it. That you make an appointment via the internet, a reservation.
Yeah.
And you do the whole thing. I hope it works.
It's amazing to me that this I can't quite explain why the history, or why in Europe and in the UK and around, that there's at least some appreciation of the joke of art. I mean, I couldn't even consider doing anything like that in America, because it would be such a small thing. You'd have to find a very sort of specific audience that would even know the joke. I watched a bit of yours on YouTube about explaining how your comedy is almost modern art. The Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant,
yeah.
but that there's an audience for that is fascinating to me. Even the most alternative or hip audiences in America are not that sophisticated, and it's I think it's a privilege you guys have in a way.
Yeah.
Have you
That's a good example.
In America?
I have, yeah, but that's another example of something that didn't used to work. The Venn diagram.
It didn't.
Well, it sort of. But again, when it doesn't work, that's it's offensive in that you're rubbing people's ignorance in the face. I'll talk about a Venn diagram, but if you do it the right way, you can get away with it. It's fine. No one's going to be that upset.
It's very interesting to me that you actually see it as offensive. That it's
in a sense offensive.
No, I understand.
Like an unexploded joke.
Right.
To tell a joke.
Yeah.
On a stage, people are paid to laugh. You told a joke that they didn't get. Right. there's something. I think there's an awkwardness out there.
There's definitely an awkwardness, but is the onus on you for being offensive? That these
well,
people...
it's somewhere between us. It's not certain who it is. They can blame me. I can blame them. They were a terrible audience. He was a terrible act. Right? Let's call it quits.
But have you ever gotten to the point where you're like, go home and Google this? Or
it's too late for that.
But it's amazing you don't take. I mean, there's a certain humility in not taking the condescending route, and saying like, if you're offended by this, it's because you're not smart enough to get it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any need to say that. By the way, if you're not laughing, it's because you're thick. All right, I've got 10 minutes now. I'll get 10 minutes out of that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't laugh at my act, you're stupid. Can we get that clear at the start?
Why don't you open with? Why don't you call the show that?
That's some sort of IQ meter. Yeah. What is it all going down? You're not laughing, are you? You're thick.
Well, I think that's why it's lucky you don't do that. I don't know.
It's lucky, not luck. I'm a survivor. Well, no, it's not me. If I think of something, that's impossible. You just want to try it, don't you? It's a bit like well, League Against Stadium began with, oh wow, what would that be like if someone came on instead of going, hello, nice to see you, or just came on going, you are cunt, scum, just abuse.
Right. Yeah,
so I did it, and it worked, and it was funny. But not everywhere.
Yeah, right.
And the reason I think it didn't work in Toronto or Melbourne is an English voice, particularly in America, you've got that culture, film culture anyway, of English being evil and slightly superior. Attention scum, you are nothing, absolutely nothing, with an English voice saying it, is very different from what I meant. Like in England, it's just like, oh, who's this bloke abusing us? But in the States, oh, it's an English...
It must be an evil...
The feeling I got in Toronto and in Melbourne when I did the League Against Stadium was people going, what's he being rude? Well, it's definitely not saying, why is he being rude to us? What have we done? You know, just rude. I don't really get it. And Toronto as well, like, why? Why just be rude to us? Because you're different. I'm not... It was an English act to shout at English people by an English person, I think.
And when I watch you now, when I watch the recent show, having not known the history of you, it seems to me that you have this life.
Yeah.
You know, you've got your wife and your kids, and you've got a house.
Yeah.
And what I notice, maybe it's not true, is that you have this you have a style that you've established, which is this kind of pushing the envelope of funny and being absurd and using different elements. But there's also this part of you that just wants to talk about your kids. Yeah. And being in the country and stuff. Yeah.
But my act at the moment is formed like sedimentary rock over immense time and vast pressure. So it's the bits I enjoy doing. It turns out most of it's true. So yeah, I do like talking about kids. And I know, as the reviewer kindly explained, it was safe and predictable. Well, obviously no joke is predictable if you laugh at it. Otherwise you wouldn't have laughed.
They said that about this show?
Yeah. But parts of his material, they like the restaurant, they said that's brilliant, but safe and predictable. Everything I say, has all happened, has occurred to me, and I find interesting, funny. It's not edgy in any way. It's just stuff about, well, there's a bit, I don't even think about it. There's no point thinking about it. This is what I do. I'm happy with it. Bits drop out, bits come in.
I got a good laugh out of the, it felt like you were in a Swiss cuckoo clock with a moral theme.
That line only occurred quite late on. That just occurred quite late on. And it never used to get a laugh.
Really?
As you say it, and after a while I realised, once it did, and I was, no, that is funny. Just give it time. I just used to throw it away. I felt like I was in a Swiss cuckoo clock with a moral theme, and it gone. I thought, no, that's the punchline.
Right.
I'll put an underline under it.
Well, people have to make that jump in their head. I have a hard time with audiences that aren't willing to do their side of it, where it's like it's not all going to be explained to you. You have to somehow reach into your memory and picture a Swiss cuckoo clock, or you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
You're just going to sit there like...
And the trouble is, if they're not getting it, don't go faster. The old counterintuitive law, they're not getting up, don't speed up. Basically, you just got to accept your fate.
Yeah.
Go down. It's also a little psychological trick.
I did that last night, though.
Do you do that little trick if ever you think it's not, that didn't work at all, that went for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, ding, 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 ding,
yeah.
Dive. No, don't do that. Just think they're saving up the laugh for later.
Uh-huh.
And often they are.
Yeah.
And they will be.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
they
a good
pay
thought.
to laugh. Basically, you're standing in the way of them laughing. Try and get out of the way, and the big wave of laughter will push through you.
Yeah.
Don't let you be so important.
But then you have that moment where you're like, well, I guess that's the wave. It wasn't as big a wave as I thought.
But it's like to see another. Then there'll be 3 big ones coming. They saved it up for later. They just couldn't laugh. That's right. It's like surfing. Very, very
But
similar.
I did that thing last night, though, where I sped up, and then like I started. Have you ever done that where you do speed up and that's not working, and then you just you end bits in the middle on the first lap? It's going to go on to the next one.
On the back foot. Yeah. And that back pocket is dwindling rapidly. Oh, but it's all just sand. There's nothing. So when you what we call a bank, I don't know what you call it. You know, your absolute cast iron, so it's not going to fail. You slap that on the table, and you go, right. Well, just the subtle stuff left then. Ooh.
It's a horrible feeling, isn't it?
It is.
It still is, right?
Yeah, but so it's much better not to decide from the beginning. I'm not backing down. I'm going to do. I'm not going to try and.
How do you
I'm just going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Take my time. But if something happens, someone shouts out. That's different. You deal with it. But just do it as well as you can. Also, I've done gigs in environments where you cannot hear yourself think, like at Glastonbury sometimes, or this festival I did in Hull, where they had a band started up in another venue. Like, I was trying to tune my guitar, and it was just B. Everywhere was B.
Yeah,
you couldn't hear the audience. Anyway, you just got to do it as well as you can.
Well, that was funny the other night. You know, when you were on stage at in the room you're in, which is sort of a tent or a temporary theater of some kind, the Bosco Theater. And music started about halfway through, and it was irritating me because it was like a beatbox kind of music, and you're doing your thing, which is kind of nuanced and absurd. And I'm like, what the fuck? I would hate to be performing in this venue. And then you close with the restaurant piece, which is a completely beautiful absurdity. And I walk out, and did you see what's making the music?
The White Rabbit.
There's a guy in a bunny suit playing bass. And
Every
I'm like,
night he starts up. Just like, oh.
It's like, and I'm thinking
If
to
the show was
myself,
doing better, I'd bribe him to stop. I would, but on this level,
I just couldn't figure out what was more absurd. Was your well-structured actor, me walking outside, and there's a guy in a man-sized bunny suit with a bass. I'm like, this is like a competition. I don't know if Simon realizes what he's up against.
Yeah.
I like when people know their own limitations, because I think so many of us are kind of childish like that. We just keep expecting the biggest. It must be interesting having children.
Oh yeah.
Is it as enlightening as you thought it would be?
It's like joining the human race.
Yeah.
I imagine.
I don't know if it's going to happen for me. How old are your kids?
753. Oh, you got time.
Yeah. And that'll be.
It really just you just go and also it's continuous. It's like you're on the whole time. There's no
But it's sort of like there's part of me that thinks like I can't really be a well-rounded person if I don't have a child. That where you're put in that position.
You've never seen it from the other side. You know, suddenly you see it from any kind of resentment you had towards your parents, or suddenly you see it from the other side of what it was like to be. You know, when you find yourself saying the things that your father had said to you.
Yeah.
You go, yeah, okay.
This is the way it has to go.
No, because I say so. Yes. No, we're crossing the road. Hold my hand.
Yeah.
We're going, yeah.
And do you feel like
it
humanized you a bit somehow?
Yeah, I'm really glad. And also love, absolute love. Amazing how much you love these creatures. Just babies. I never used to have no interest in babies. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's got a baby, oh good. No, I don't want to hold it.
Yeah.
Like go off.
Good job.
And then suddenly, if I just see a baby now, my heart goes.
Oh really?
I go, oh, little ones. You know, like they're the most beautiful, funny.
Yeah.
They have to be cute. It's survival, not fittest. It's the cutest.
Yeah.
That's what. So they learn to do that, and they come at you running as well. Like, there's no better mirror than a child. They know you. They know your every thought. Like, Eleanor, can you tidy your room? Well, yours isn't tidy. And I go, no, your office is the least tidy room in this house. I go, okay. Well, yeah, good point. The other day, like, they're all asleep. Well, we've got a lot of trouble getting over the jet lag, so I got over it, but they don't. She's going, it's 5 a.m. I was going, look, if you could just try and sleep for another hour, right? And then that way, day by day, we'll get more on Australian time. Yeah. And she goes, but people are sleeping still. She opens the curtain, looks out, and goes, well, there's cars and buses moving around. I go, oh, you're right.
Good point.
Yep.
You win. That's awesome. Well, Hella, it was great talking to you.
And you.
I think it's sort of sad. Reflection on my country that we don't know you guys, and I don't know how that's going to happen. Like Stuart Lee is another one where I did an hour with him and no one really knew who he was in my country except a few people. And it's sort of a tragedy that doesn't go back and forth as much. How can we make that happen, Simon?
I don't know. You have to talk to your.
It's my side. It's on my side.
Yeah. So talk to your people. I'll talk to my people.